Tell me, what's the right way of doing things? Is it cheese before dessert, or is it dessert before cheese? Now, of course, if you live in France, then you would say any sane person knows that it's cheese before dessert. But the truth is, it really depends on where you come from. And we're going to come back to the cheese in a couple of minutes. Now, if you're a foreign entrepreneur and you're running a business here, the chances are that, well, it's either your first time in business because you've discovered that finding a suitable job is not easy, or more like next to impossible, or you've already run a successful business somewhere else, in which case you've come here with a can-do attitude. You're like, hey, I've done this before, I can do it again. Some of you may be having some difficulties with generating enough revenue, and maybe you need to rethink or reposition a bit, but that's a topic for a different video. A lot of you may have absolutely no problem with money coming in. Maybe you've got plenty of money coming in, but the problem is you're not really hanging on to very much of it. And this is a very baffling and frustrating situation to be in, especially if you have very minimal expenses, because theoretically, right, if you have quite high revenues and very low expenses, then there should be like a huge chunk of profit there that's sitting in your bank account, but somehow it's not. If you can remember how you imagined your life here before you moved here, then, well, I don't know exactly what you imagined, right, because I'm not a mind reader, but I'm pretty sure that this move was supposed to represent a step up in quality of life. It was going to bring you increased financial freedom. It was going to bring you a better work-life balance. And if what you find now is that you're actually working just as many hours as you were before, maybe more, and you don't really feel any more well off, maybe a bit less than you did before, get to a point where you're just going, hey, what's going wrong here? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going wrong, and it's that when you built your business here, you used foreign building blocks. So those building blocks that you used were either British or American or Australian or wherever it is that you come from, and you said to yourself, hey, this is what works over there, so it's got to work over here as well. And maybe you didn't even ask yourself the question, is there such a thing as French building blocks? And I just want to say that that would be a perfectly normal and understandable thing to do, because you've only had one experience of doing business. So as far as you're concerned, this is how business is done. So it's perfectly normal that you would think that way. But even if you did ask yourself the question, is it going to be different in France? Then what's likely is that you said, yeah, sure, there's going to be some changes, but really the main thing is about generating revenue. And we all know that if I can generate enough revenue, then everything else comes downstream from there. All of the growth and the investment and the more time and the more financial freedom, all of that comes downstream from generating the revenue. And anything else, I can work it out later. And really, how different can it be? Well, should we go back to the cheese for a second? I don't know if you remember the very first time you had dinner with French friends, French neighbours, and you did not say to anybody around that dinner table, hey, do you guys eat the cheese before the dessert, or do you eat the cheese after the dessert? Because in your mind, it was maybe perfectly clear that cheese is eaten after the dessert. And nobody else around that table said to you, hey, you know what? You should be aware we eat cheese before dessert here. Because in their mind, that's the only way to eat cheese. So you didn't ask, they didn't tell. And if you were to say to them, you guys eat cheese before dessert, then they would just go, well, duh. And this is exactly why your accountant does not explain things to you. Your accountant is not some kind of twisted psycho who just wants to kind of sit back and laugh while he watches you burn. But he can't explain things to you if he doesn't know what you don't know. and things that you may have assumed incorrectly because he doesn't know that you've assumed them incorrectly. He cannot imagine a world where somebody would go into business without understanding social charges, corporation tax, company vehicle tax, CSG, CRDS, so he doesn't even think to tell you about it. Now, if what you're looking for is somebody who's going to be able to do that, somebody who understands your mindset perfectly and at the same time understands exactly how things work in France, the kind of misconceptions that you need pointing out to you, then you need somebody with a foot in both camps so that they can say, okay, this is your personal situation. These are your personal requirements and these are your personal objectives. So now I'm going to take your business, I'm going to take your business strategy and I'm going to Frenchify it for you. I'm going to give you all of the options that you have, all of the approaches that you could take in France so that you can get the results that you are hoping to get. Is change scary? Yes, it is. Is there a cost attached to change? Yes, there is. Is it worth doing? Pretty much always. And I have to tell you, to be honest, I am very uncomfortable with self-promotion, but I have not come across anybody else who is reuniting all of these different skill sets and offering this service. So if you think that your business could require some degree of Frenchification, then all of my contacts are in the description.